All right, everybody, welcome back to the One and Done podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dr. Jonah Casella,
And I am one of your other hosts, Dr. Andrew Gunung.
and today we're going to talk about a very relatable subject, which is having bad days, or even a bad couple of days, or even a bad week. We're going to talk all about that and how you can prevent it from happening, so it doesn't set you back, but also how sometimes it kind of just happens it's out of your control, and how to deal with that and get back on track. So, like I said, this is something that happens to me regularly. And I feel like if somebody says that it never happens to them, they're just totally full of it, because that's just outrageous for it not to happen, because life's just so crazy all the time. So,
Dude, it
yeah,
sounds like
yeah.
you're going through it right now.
No, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been rough. This past weekend was my bachelor party, which was obviously just a loss for 3 days, just like any bachelor party weekend is going to be. And so nothing got done physically or in any kind of healthy way. So yeah, coming back from that, Monday was like not a bad day. Like Monday I came back and actually did a run. I did a run with Aubrey. We ran like just over 4.5 miles.
Let's
So we actually
go.
did a run. It was great. And then yesterday, Tuesday, I had a work dinner after work, which I knew I had coming up. It wasn't like it was dropped on me the day before. So this is where I made a mistake in not preparing for this and was just lazy. And that I didn't try to get up early and do a workout or do a run to prepare for the nothing that was going to happen after work. Because once we go to work dinners, we're just having a good time, having some drink and some food, and talking about business and stuff. So after that, nothing's going to get done. But I didn't prepare well. And then today, it just kind of bled into today. We were out late. I had to be in at work earlier, even though it's my late day, and was there all day. And then we had the podcast tonight. So it's just poor preparation and planning, which is what we're going to get into today, just like we always do. It all kind of meshes together, but everybody knows that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Before we
yeah, go ahead.
begin, I want to shout out my old student that was with me in the clinic here in Jacksonville. She and I talked frequently about my podcast. She was in the clinic when we had just first started it. And she actually, as a parting gift, got me this hat. I don't know if you can see it. Okay. Oh, that makes it worse. But it says the One and On podcast on there. So, Jonah, we might have to make some more. I'm going to reach out to her
Yeah.
and see how she made these, because they're Nike hats. They're golf hats. So they're pretty sweet. So shout out,
That's sick.
Jess.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. She was a blessing to have. So it's awesome that she was able to make these for us. So we're gonna have some more stuff hopefully coming in the future too. Jonah and I are
Yeah.
working on potentially some stickers and shirts that we can make, and I think a lot of people would like that stuff. So let
Yeah.
us
I'm
know if
hyped
you
for
like
that.
that idea.
Yeah. I definitely need one of those hats. So we got to figure out how she did that and just duplicate that order. And yeah, make some stickers, make some shirts. Maybe I guess we're getting into winter, so maybe a couple hoodies.
Oh, that'd
Love
be
a good
sick.
workout hoodie, a good
Yeah,
running hoodie. That'd be sick.
yeah, that'd be
So
awesome.
yeah, that'll be coming out. And just like always, thank you guys so much for listening and showing support. We hope you liked the last episode. The last one meant a lot to us, and we really enjoyed the last one a lot. We had fun with it. So thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, sorry, I set us back for a second. So let's get into it a little bit. Um, with bad days, bad weeks, bad months, bad years. This isn't limited to just a bad day. I think a lot of us have bad days for sure. I mean, every week I have a bad day, but sometimes I have bad weeks and I have really bad months. And I've had a horrible year before too. Now, there's a lot of good that was mixed in between there and a lot of learning opportunity for me, but we all go through it at some capacity. And Joan and I were discussing before how we wanted to approach this. And I think we should start out with the spontaneity of bad days, because we don't plan bad days. Sometimes lack of preparation can cause a bad day, but I don't think we ever try and intentionally have or let bad days come upon us. So the spontaneity of a bad day is, how do we react to it? Because those are inevitable. We're always going to have bad days. And I think that when there's no other way to go about it other than to take it on the chin and figure out how to still operate accordingly despite the bad days. And that will show you a lot about how your discipline and self mastery is if you can learn how to still operate well despite bad days. Because if you are creating discipline for yourself and habits for yourself, you will know how to respond amidst chaos and amidst frustration and high emotions and people getting mad at you. And the best thing that you can do is operate at the same level you always operate at, with minimal emotion, and just function at autopilot. And I think that's where all of us, me included, Jonah included, we struggle with, because we let emotions take control of us and the frustrations of a bad day, and it ends up ruining it and creating disruption in the positive momentum or productivity throughout the week. And I think that's kind of what Jonah is alluding to with his last weekend, or with his bad days in general. So Jonah, I mean, let's dive into kind of where you feel like maybe you could have handled that better, or situations. I have plenty throughout the week where I don't operate out of, or on autopilot. I operate out of emotion, and that creates a bad trajectory for the rest of my week.
Yeah. Yeah, it I knew about this work dinner coming up, and obviously I knew about my bachelor party, and so it was just a lack of preparation for me and planning. That's the very first thing that went wrong, was that I needed to, like, this work dinner yesterday, knowing that it was coming up and knowing I wasn't going to get anything done after work. What I needed to do was, and what I knew I thought about it, but I let my emotions take over and push my discipline out of the way. I knew that the solution was, I need to wake up early and do a run or do a workout. And where I went wrong is exactly what you said, is that I got emotional. And what we mean about that is, obviously we're not like crying or something, but you just let that thought, the little voice in your head that's like, you're gonna get up early, like, you know, you did a workout yesterday and you're still recovering from the long weekend that you had, like, just, it's okay, and you let that little seed start to grow, and it just really disrupts things. And so, and I've talked about this in the past about why it's so important to plan, because if I had a plan set up and it was set in place where you're going to get up at 5 o'clock and you're going to do a half an hour workout, or you're going to get up at 4:45 and do your 45-minute run, no, it's not negotiable, you're just going to do it, then there wouldn't have been room for that little voice in my head to kind of take over, because nothing was structurally planted there to counter that. And so by not preparing, the voice in my head, it's going to take over every time. You have to be so disciplined and so prepared, and I just wasn't. So that's where I went wrong initially. And then, today, going into today, again, I didn't go into work until 9, excuse me. So I left at like 8:30. I could have easily, we were out late last night. I didn't get home till like after 11. So I didn't go to bed until late. And so again, if I would have really planned it out, knowing that that work dinner was going to be there, I had so much time this morning. I could have definitely got up and got a run. But two things happened. One, I shouldn't have drank as much as I did, because then I was so dehydrated the next day that, like, I would have been screwed on a run for sure, or a workout. And then I let that voice peek in my head again. And that morning was just like, just get up and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to do this. Plus, we're staying at Aubrey's parents' house right now to watch the dogs. So, like, I have no gear, none of my nutritional stuff, electrolytes and G and sport and everything. And so all of that collectively just gets in your head. And so I'm rambling, but ultimately it's just a lack of preparation and planning, and letting that emotional voice kind of take over.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. I know you have a thought. What is it?
No, I mean, it is, but it's down a different path. So I want to kind of stay on this for a quick second, because I think, yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line, and that's what we all struggle with. I know Jonah and I are able to definitely speak from experience. I feel it on a daily basis too. And I noticed, while I'm going through 75 hard now, I've noticed that I am preparing my days, my subsequent days, way better now, and realizing how much time was wasted doing stupid crap, that you can still do those things, JC, and still, like, go to those work dinners and still be able to do those other things. And that's something I always struggle with. I was like, I have this event, I'm not going to be able to do anything. And I just accepted it for what it was. But there's 24 hours in a day. You sleep for 8 of them at most. Let's say you're getting a full night of sleep. You have so much more of your day left, 16 hours of your day left to work with. And you can make it happen if you delegate accordingly. And that's something, I mean, if we were all great at it, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And that's something that 75 Hard has been teaching me, is to be really disciplined with my time so that I'm preparing for things ahead of time, knowing that, okay, I have a commitment after work where I usually would be getting my workout in. I'm going to have to wake up super early tomorrow and get my workout in before work. And that means I'm getting up at 4:30. It is what it is, but I'm staying on top of it then. And then you don't have that, maybe you stop it in its tracks then. Like the potential for a bad day can be stopped just by you planning accordingly, and then you can still operate. Yeah, you're a little bit tired the next day, but then you plan accordingly the next night and you go to sleep earlier, and then you're still set up for success the next day. So I struggle with that 100%, and especially on my weekends, because my structure during my week is great. But then when the weekends come, I'm like, oh, I'm chilling.
Oh,
I had
same.
so much time. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
relax. And then you let it slip too. But to kind of move on to like kind of a different pathway with it, I was thinking, what happens to you when you're in the clinic and you're treating and something happens and it sets you off? Maybe it creates some emotion in you that you wish you didn't have. It creates some anxiety in you. How do you respond to that? Are you just like, you take it on the chin, you show the frustration a little bit, and you continue throughout your day? Or are you able to kind of bottle it up and still operate in the clinic without showing too much emotion? Because from my personal experience, always struggle with this. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, so you know how I'm feeling. And if I'm feeling stressed, you can see it. But one thing that has helped me is stepping out for a second and like gathering my thoughts and getting like a larger perspective on the day. And that has enabled me to get a better grasp of in the moment, like, okay, this is temporary, just suck it up. It's going to be frustrating now. A week from now, it's going to be nothing to me. I'm going to forget about it. So how do you respond in those situations where something comes up that could potentially create a bad day? Are you the type of person that can do what I do and still working through it, obviously, but you can step aside and kind of get grounded for a moment? Or are you someone that kind of is like, all right, I just need to own it and then not step out and think about my emotions and just bottle them up?
Yeah. That's a good question. And I wear my heart on my sleeve too, to be completely frank with you. If something initially happens, my initial emotion is you're going to like see that there's something going on. Like I'm going to show that. But I've gotten pretty good and disciplined now in work that as soon as something comes up, like I can immediately like push it to the side and not let that emotion get to me, because I know, just like you're saying, like I'm thinking ahead, like, okay, they just put an emergency patient on my schedule. Um, that wasn't anticipating that, so that kind of throws me off because I already saw my schedule, I knew what to expect, and now all of a sudden there's a new person on there. Like, how am I going to deal with that? Am I going to have enough time? And so that split second, that's what's going through my mind. It's like a million miles an hour. And then as soon as I kind of like gather my thoughts, I shut it off. And like, especially, I immediately shut it off after a couple minutes. And then if the patient's out there waiting, I kind of take a breath, collect my thoughts, anticipate like what's maybe going on. And then I just put the blinders on and I stop worrying about if, my next patient's after them. And I put all my focus on just that one case. And then, so once I do that, I'm usually pretty good. But at first I put my emotions on my sleeve. I wear them on my
Yeah,
sleeve. It's
same.
tough. It's tough not to.
Oh my gosh.
But it's a split second. It's so fast. And then I'm like, no, okay, focus on this, knock this out, next task, knock that out. Everything's gonna be fine.
Right. And that's what I struggle with that a lot, because the area I work in has a lot of folks that rely on transportation to get to come and see me. And, parking's bad and traffic hits, and they roll in late every hour. I have at least one straggler that comes in late. And now, I mean, maybe I'm just immune to it now, but I used to struggle so much, and I would actually let it affect me and how I came across to the patient. And I think I probably learned the hard way because I had some bad responses from patients. Now, granted, they're the one that is causing potential stress on me by showing up late. And you know this too, Jonah.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But what I think about and what some people have talked to me about is, okay, so the patient shows up. Are you going to turn them away? Probably not, because you want what's best for them. Okay, so they're going to stay. How are you going to respond? Is anything going to change besides? You might as well make it a productive session. Maybe who knows what's going to come of it. Maybe that one interaction can get you, another referral from the patient. Or I had a really good experience with my optometrist, Jonah. I really think you should go to him. He's great. And he took me in on an unexpected visit and he did everything to a T. He's very thorough. He had patience with me. He listened to me. You should go and see him. And that's what it creates is you only see the one side of it. You see the frustration, what the work is going to cause you. But we bought into it with medicine. Like we bought into that going into this field. So if you can operate out of emotion in those times. And it's really just coming down to practicing it. I mean, the amount of times that I've went and got a patient frustrated as can be and still saw them and put on a smile and kind of just push down my emotions a little bit and still treat the person in front of me. I think it's actually just taught me over time to not get frustrated about it anymore. Now, there are still times where I get frustrated, but not as frequently as it used to be.
Hmm.
So it's self mastery too. You just expose yourself to the painful stimulus enough, you're gonna become better at taking it on, and then you
Yeah.
won't be as responsive to it.
And yeah, and I was gonna say like maybe it's because you get jaded. You get jaded to the fact that you're just jaded to that situation where like people are gonna come in late.
Yeah,
Or like for me, it's like the patients that don't confirm. It's like they're not confirmed, but I know they're gonna come in and they're
yep,
gonna be late, and it's every time.
every
And
single
so I
time.
don't know if jaded is the right word as much as it's just like you're experienced now and you're kind of calloused, and you don't let that phase you because you kind of what to expect. You've been there and you've developed that discipline on how to handle those situations. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
and
good topic.
this made me think of a situation. So maybe, I mean, if you're in any type of position where you want growth, or maybe you don't know you want growth yet, but it's kind of on your mind, what that shows to your higher ups is that you're able to really handle stress well, and that's ultimately what they want to see in their employees. I know that I want that for my employees, is to be able to handle stress and still operate the same way with every single person. I want that as a patient. If I'm a patient and I go and see somebody, I want them to still operate the same way. That doesn't mean I'm going to screw them over every time by showing up late, but I want them to show up the same way for me every single time because I know what I'm getting then. You don't like the uncertainty. And that goes with any relationship. Like now there's an expectation that you communicate accordingly about like potential ways to improve that. Maybe you need to schedule them for a different time, or if you're in a different avenue of work, maybe it's your meetings are starting late because someone shows up late every single time. You have a conversation with someone and say, hey, we need to figure this out, like we need you to get here on time. But for those situations you can't control, this is a good opportunity for you to see from a different perspective that other people are going to see how you respond to this. How would you want them to see you respond? Do you want them to see you stressed out, throwing attitude at a patient or a colleague, or when you're minorly inconvenienced in your day? Do you want to show that side, or would you rather show discipline and control of your emotions and say, he handled that like a boss, like I respect that guy because he's able to do that. And that's why I think about it, because we get in our heads, we're like, oh, who cares? It's just me that's seen it. But no, people are watching how you move and how you operate. And so I want people
Mhm.
to see me and say, he handled that like a boss. I need to be better like that, because then that creates a good environment for everyone around you. Because I know that in my own personal life, whenever I see friends who are like that, that makes me want to level up, you know?
Yeah.
But when you're by yourself, it's easy to function out of emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, emotion, man, it definitely it can take a toll on your daily productivity for sure.
Yeah.
And to kind of move forward now into the next step of, well, now what? Because it's easy to let a couple of bad days or a bad week or month just completely throw you off the rails and not allow you to get back on, because that voice starts talking in your head and telling you, well, you've already missed a week. Like now, you screwed up the last month of your workouts. So what's the point of they're going to restart, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's heard it. Everybody's been there and dealt with that. And so yesterday and today, what I did in between patients and during my lunch at work is I recognized the fact that I didn't plan accordingly. And so my next step was to start planning accordingly. And I literally typed out my workout schedule for the upcoming weeks that I'm going to be following. I was talking to Andrew about this. A lot of my like casual run days were like 45-minute runs, like 5.5 miles or 5 miles. But I want to start putting more mileage on. And so just me saying that I want to put more mileage on, what does that mean? Like, if you just say stuff like that, you're never going to do anything with it. And so it's on paper. I'm doing 10 miles on my runs, and I'm going to, I've already calculated how early I have to get up to accomplish that. And so I've started really planning down to like the T from my workouts, even threw in like where I want my macros to be, because I'm going to be putting more workload on my body and stuff, and really trying to nail it down to a science so that I don't have to think. That's the biggest issue with everybody, is you just overthink everything. Keep it simple, stupid. Dumb it
Yeah.
down, put it on a calendar, plan it all out on a piece of paper, and so that you just don't have to think about it. So come Monday next week, like I have it all scheduled. I know what workouts I'm doing every day, and I'm just going to hammer it. And although I can't do the 75 hard because I have weddings coming up and my own wedding coming up, and so you can't drink alcohol during 75 hard. So I'm not gonna cheat and act like I'm doing 75 hard, but I am gonna be pushing myself definitely while Andrew does this too.
That hypes
So
me up.
prepare. You got to prepare.
Yeah. Reference our last podcast on goal setting.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help you. Obviously,
Take my advice.
yeah, exactly. And we're always going through it. I mean, that's why this podcast is the way it is. We have bricks in the logo for a reason right here, is because we're bricklayers. We're just like you and struggling. We are never if we ever speak like from a level of, we never try and speak from a level of superiority, obviously, but if something worked for us, we're going to tell you what worked for us, but we will certainly tell you our losses. We have many more failures and losses than successes. So we just tell you how we're going through it and what's working for us. And if there's things that consistently work for us, we're going to talk about it. And so, but to add to that, we're both kind of going through this trial and error process of seeing what's going to be best for us. And we struggle with it just as much as you do. And this is a podcast for pretty much the common man or common woman, because we all struggle with this on a daily basis. And so it's funny you talked about that, Jonah. So I did my morning walk this morning. I woke up at 4:45, I think. Yeah, 4:45, maybe just before. And I went to bed kind of late last night. I was behind on doing some things. So I woke up this morning so tired, and I still got out there. I was out there by 5 o'clock. I started my walk, and I'm doing my longer runs on the weekends. So my cardio in the morning is just 45 minutes of walking around my area that I live in. And I'm so tired, and I'm just like walking in silence around my area. And I walk past an Orange Theory Fitness. There's like a class of 25 people sprinting on a treadmill. I'm like, I wrote down on this paper. I think I sent it to you this morning. I said, if you think for a second you're the only one struggling and having bad days, you need to look around, because there are people still doing stuff despite the bad days. You never know what someone's going through, and they're still operating at max capacity despite a bad day. So if you think you're alone in your days, in your frustrations, in your emotions, you are not alone. And that gives me a lot of reassurance, because what happened whenever I saw those people, I sent that snap to Jonah, and I was like, I need to suck it up. Like, there are going to be bad days, and there's sometimes no other way to go through it other than to just take it on the chin and keep moving forward. And that's exactly what I did. Now, my day wasn't horrible. It was just I was exhausted and I was not ready for the day to come. But after seeing that, I was like, I don't need anything else. Like, I'm good. I could be sprinting on a treadmill inside of a hot Orange Theory Fitness with a bunch of people I don't want to look at right now. But I'm outside just in the nice weather, getting my cardio in by myself, putting good things into my ears through my headphones. And so I wrote on this paper, you are not the only one going through it. It's true. So when you think that your
Mhm.
bad days are bad, there's always someone going through it more. Reference our podcast 2 times ago. That's to a T what we're all going through. And if someone
Yeah.
doesn't show it, you never know what's going on in their life. And so
Yeah, and
that gives
honestly,
me, go ahead.
that's really true because there's two things that I want to make a point of your example. One, when you sent me that and I saw it at like 6:15 in the morning, I was like, "Screw you, Andrew." One, for being up, getting a workout in. Which and then immediately I was like, "Man, I'm glad I have people like Andrew in my life that are just out there getting it because like that motivates me so much to just get back on and stop being a little baby about it, and feeling bad for myself." So that was a great thing that came out of that. And
Let's plug the second podcast in. Keep your circle small.
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
We just
Seriously, yeah.
keep plugging our old podcast in there.
Yeah. And the second thing that I was gonna say about that escaped me now, of course, that I started talking
Sorry.
about that.
I know.
No, it wasn't you. It was just my fault because I got off on a tangent there a little bit. But
It's
no,
crazy. It's
yeah,
like one little thing can flip a switch in your mind too. And I always get in my head like no one's going through what I'm going through. Shut up. Shut up. You have it good in comparison to other people. Like just suck it up and keep moving one foot in front of the next. And not to belittle the emotions. Like trust me, there are people going through so much worse than you, or sometimes you're going through so much worse than other people. But being able to take it on the chin and build a callus to it, like kind of Jonah referenced before, is so important because that sets you up for future bad days and weeks and months. And what I mean by bad weeks, days, or months is maybe it is like the loss of somebody. That's a different type of pain, right? And so we're not talking, maybe we can talk about that, that's an ongoing thing, and that's a grieving process on a daily basis. But if you're talking in terms of like a bad week or a bad month, maybe that means to you that you're just grinding for so long and it's the last thing you want to do, but you have a lot of productive momentum that could come from it. And so, the bad months may not be the emotional side of things. It's just like the self-discipline or the getting through the grit of the work that you have to put in. Because
hmm
I know I go through those. Like I'm in it right now. I have so much work on my plate and then I'm like 75 hard on top of it. Like the last thing I want to do is get up at 4:45 when I work a 10-hour day trying to put out fires. And then I come back, work out, read my book, drink my gallon of water before bed, and still get to bed on a timely manner. We all have stuff going on in our lives, but I think it's how you handle those situations day in and day out that builds a callus. And then for future bad days,
yeah,
you can handle that with much more ease.
and that's exactly right. And that's something that we talked about before too on one of our prior podcasts. Is that once you start building structure and habits, and you get this discipline that builds, when you do fall off and you do have bad days or even weeks, you are able to get back on and get right back into it a lot easier than if you didn't have that already. So once you start getting into a routine of doing things, it helps you down the line get back onto the bandwagon after you've fallen off, because it happens to me just like everybody else all the time. But I know, and I have enough self-discipline that I know that I can flip that switch and get back into it. And after I'm a week back in, it's like I never lost those few days, and I can just keep rolling. So get that calloused mind and that discipline over time. It helps you down the line.
You know what this made me think of
What?
is like I feel like whenever you you mentioned earlier about saying you're going to do something like the 10 miles, increasing your mileage for these runs. What I look at is okay, Jonah said he's going to do it. But then if I come to find out later that he's upping his mileage while also taking on way more, that's really impressive because guess what matters? What matters is the actions, not what you're saying you're going to do. So you could have a really crappy 3 months, but if you consistently during that time were able to be productive with what you wanted to and what you said you were going to do, that's incredibly impressive. But if Jonah came to me and said, yeah, so I planned on doing 10 miles every day or every other day, but then I stopped listening after but. I'm not going to listen to what you just said because you didn't do it. But, if you're operating amidst a very busy schedule and a lot of priorities in your life, that's really impressive to me. I'll keep listening if you said you did it, right? But like if you said you're going to do it and then you didn't actually capitalize on it, then it doesn't mean much to me. I stopped listening after you said but. So,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge thing too. And I'm going to plug this book too, Jonah.
Mm-hmm.
5 a.m. Club. It's a great read for anyone trying to elevate your life. And it starts talking about, obviously the importance of getting up super early. So, folks out there who are night owls, you got to get with the times because the rest of the world operates a lot earlier than you'd probably like them to. There are people out there like our friend group who are up and at it at 4:45, and they're getting a head start on their days. And it's a great read for anyone who is trying to do that and get better at waking up early. And it actually, after reading it, we kind of actually, I think, led people on a little bit the wrong way. They say 21 days is the way that you create a habit, but I think it's actually like 60 something days because you go through different phases of it. 21 is like the first phase of it. And then,
I saw that
um,
somewhere too. Yeah. I
yeah,
saw that after we talked about it. You're right.
yeah. So not to go on a tangent, but that's the book we're reading. Jonah and I, or that I'm reading right now. Jonah did one, I think, on one of our first podcasts. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So I think to Jonah's point, which we're going to kind of regress back to, since I went on a tangent there for a second, he talked about knowing that stuff is coming up and planning accordingly. That's exactly right. I think it's important to really delegate your time and energy to certain things and write it out. Write out what you're going to be doing during those times because you could lose the productive momentum. Let's say that Jonah has been doing really well with his grit. He's been grinding at work. He's been getting all of his stuff done, and he has a lot of productive momentum. He feels like he's getting a lot done, but he knows that he has a lot of priorities in the next coming week that could disrupt the productive momentum. And I know I've alluded to that in the past with productive momentum and how that can set you up for opportunities you don't even know about, if you're operating at a really good caliber. And the way to not disrupt that momentum that you have is to plan and make sure you get your things, all your ducks in a row so that you don't lose that because you don't have to. Who says you have to lose that momentum just because you have a priority come up? And people will use that as an excuse to get out of it then, which is obviously not ideal. So if you
Yeah, we
can
all do
double
that.
down, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And that's what I'm learning a lot through 75 hard is I got a lot of priorities, but I'm able to delegate my tasks, accordingly throughout the day to make sure I get it done so that I still check off every box that I have to. And it's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable. It's a
It's
non-negotiable at
just
the end of the day.
exactly. And just
Yeah.
planning is so important because even if you have a family, like and kids and whatnot, you can still get it done. I can't speak for the people that have kids because I'm not there yet, but I mean, if you're just in a serious relationship where you have to account for somebody else that's in your everyday life, you have to plan because you're not only planning for yourself, but you're planning for spending time with them. And that's something that I need to progressively get better at is making sure that I'm planning the things that matter to me, like my fitness and work and things like that, around my wife and the people in my life too. Because if you're not planning ahead, then you're only thinking selfishly and you're not going to incorporate the other things that are important too, at least are not enough. And that's going to fall back and affect everything else. So it's just so important. We can't dwell on it enough how important it is to plan. So just to kind of like recap, um,
Yeah.
everybody has days that they just don't perform and things can come up and it can be days, it can be weeks, months of that, but don't let the voice in your head talk you out of getting back on track. because you can do it. And you just have to understand that you're not the only one that's going to have bad days and go through things. And you have to just put that voice aside, break out the calendar, break out a piece of paper and a pen and pencil, and write out your plan. How am I going to fix this? And start planning everything out. Write it down if it makes it easier that way. And then plan the day. I think it's really important to plan the actual day that you're going to get back on it. When I wrote out and typed out my plan for next week, I'm like, Monday of next week, that's the day that this goes into effect. And it's non-negotiable. I'm talking about it here. I've talked about it with my wife. This is what it's going to be. I'm going to wake up early and get my runs in. And that's just, it's a done deal. So it's just so important to plan it all out. But just don't get discouraged when you have those bad days. And guess what? Reach out to that group of people in your small circle and lean on them for support when things go south on you. Because just like Andrew unknowingly did today when he sent me the snap of the Orange Theory when he was walking, was very motivating for me that he's on his grind. I know my other boys are too. I got to get back into this. This isn't who I am. I know who I am. I got to get back into it. So, have those people that you can lean on for support.
Yeah.
But that's all that I have personally, Andrew. Go ahead. You can finish up.
Last thing I was going to say is, just to piggyback off of Jonah, is you have full control of stopping a bad day from turning into a bad week, turning into a bad 3 weeks, and so on and so forth. So disrupt it. Disrupt the bad day with productive action. Figure out how you can get out of that and stop it in its tracks before it starts to accumulate into several days and then a week and then more and more and more time, because that's precious time that you're wasting then if you're letting it affect you so much. And understand that there are other people going through it. There's so many other people out there that are tired and that going through a frustrating time at work. And, that's the most important time to really kind of go back to the drawing board, figure out what's not working. Why is this continuing to happen? And then moving forward. And like Jonah said, reach out to your people. Maybe they can provide some of that productive feedback to you. I did that with Jonah last week on one of my walks. I called him like end of the day. I was like, dude, I'm so frustrated. Like, help me walk through this. And we were able to talk through it. And immediately I was able to kind of let go of it and not let it affect me, because it actually was affecting me quite bad. And I realized it in the moment. I was like, this is like, I do not want to do anything right now because of it. But talked to him, I felt better. And then boom, like I was able to get back to the drawing board and get back to what I had to do. So that's it. That's all I was going to say. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it so much. We're going to have another episode coming out, still working on getting guests onto the pod. So be patient with us. I think a couple people told me that they would like a series. So Jonah, that's on our radar too. We'll talk more about that for upcoming episodes. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get into, I don't even know. We'll think about it, but give us ideas too. If you're listening to this, shoot us a text or reach out to us and let us know what you want us to talk about, because we'll definitely dive into it. I was just going to
say that. Yeah. Please let us know. We want to cover what makes sense to other people and what will help other people. So
yeah, and honestly, talking through between you and me is going to be great, because there's probably some stuff in there that I really need to work through, and it's going to be good to put it out there and tell everyone our thought process on it,
Absolutely. Yeah, these podcasts help me a lot. They really do.
It's crazy.
Thank you guys. And until next time, peace.
Peace.